Ready, monster? Let's do this. Oh, we're on. Oh, shoot. You should have told me, man. What's good, guys? Mount Vernon Kid here. Welcome to a special, but not really a special, but a live edition of the Opinion Spot. Monster is here with me. And thank you, Monster, for being here for this. So today, guys, on this edition of the Opinion Spot, this is the 360th Opinion Spot. I'm here to discuss something that I have been planning. It was going to be pre-recorded, but I decided to discuss it with you guys live. Get your opinions on it because it's a discussion that involves a cartoon series that I love. I think it's one of the greatest animated adaptation cartoons of a comic. And what comic is that? We're talking about the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That's what we're talking about. Earth's Mightiest Heroes. The Avengers. So last week, it was the 10th anniversary of this amazing cartoon series that came out and wowed us in a sense. It was a series that gave us some of the best in the Avengers mythos. It was truly a love letter to comic readers, fans of the Avengers. Christopher Yost was the lead writer, I believe, and leading board on the show. And he did such a fantastic job with this show for 2 seasons. It only had 52 episodes. And then, of course, it got canceled. And who do I blame for that? You better believe it. Jeff fucking Loeb. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for canceling that show. Before that, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Hero came out at a time when there wasn't a lot in terms of the Marvel side of the track, in terms of animated. We had lost Wolverine and the X-Men a couple of years ago, I believe. Spectacular Spider-Man had gone 2 seasons, and with the Avengers, it was a case of being there was one Avengers cartoon series before. I'm sorry, Monty. I gotta talk about it. I know. I bear with me, okay? I know, but I gotta tell them. I gotta tell it back. Back in 1999, guys, the Avengers got their first true crack at an animated series. This came out for Fox Kids back in the 90s, and it was coming into because X-Men had ended in 97, and Fox thought they can catch gold again with the Avengers, which they could have done. Not saying they couldn't have, but unfortunately, they did the most stupidest thing with this series, Avengers United We Stand, and gave us a load of crap. Gone was Captain America. Gone was the Hulk. Gone was Iron Man. Gone was Thor. None of those characters were in the show. Correction. 2 of the characters were in the show. Iron Man and Cap. They made guest star appearances. The show felt like it was mixing Transformers and G.I. Joe with the Avengers. Everybody wore some kind of stupid armor. Looked stupid. Hank Pym was leading the group now. He felt like he was underutilized in this show because he felt he was always trying to compare himself. I'm not a good leader like Steve Rogers, or have the technical logical of Iron Man, or the will and might of Thor. It was pathetic. It had Falcon, which was cool. It had Wonder Man, who looked like a jacked up, ridiculous looking man. Wonder Man looked so jacked, like he was on roids. You had Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, in the show, and she sounded like she was Zsa Zsa Gabor because she spoke with a very, very European accent, and every time she used her chaotic powers, she had to say, "Winds of Destiny change." It was so stupid. Vision was in the show, and of course, Hawkeye was in it, and basically they made Hawkeye the Wolverine of the group. Like I said, trying to catch smoke in a bottle by just taking the X-Men out and switching it to the Avengers. They're not the same. And last but not least, who I was glad to see, they had Tigra, Greer Nelson, who I'm a big fan of. Another character, another heroine I want to see in the MCU. And voiced by the same woman who voiced Rogue in the 90s cartoon. Yeah. Show was trash. That's what it was. It was garbage. I give them credit where credit was due. They had a lot of different. They didn't put the emphasis on Kang, which was kind of stupid. And even Ultron, he was a character in it, but he didn't feel like the major villain of the show. They had the Masters of Evil, but what I really enjoyed, the main villain of the series, I give them this, was the Zodiac. I will say that. For all those who don't know what the Zodiac, it is a group of villains who represent different aspects of the Zodiac. If you follow the Zodiac, Taurus, Gemini, all that stuff. But the show was trash. Come up to now, we get Earth's Mightiest Hero, which at the time, to look at this show, which is still great, you got Disney Plus, anything like that, you watch this show, it has still aged beautifully. And what makes it even better, at the point when this show came out, there was not a lot of MCU movies out. I believe Iron Man and Iron Man 2 was out. So it didn't rely heavily on the MCU. Now, all these other Marvel cartoons now rely too much on the MCU, and that's dumb. Why? Because you're forgetting where these characters first came from. These characters have an abundance of stories, and Christopher Yost took the Avengers, over 50 years of Avengers stories, put them together, even added some of the nuanced stories like Secret Invasion, all that, and gave us magic. You talk about showcasing the characters to their fullest, was beautifully giving us a Thor that was well balanced. We know he was a god, but he still believed and still wanted to stay on Midgard, Earth, there's a reason why, because his mother is the god of Earth, the Greek god of Earth. Yes, guys, for all those who don't know, forget what you've seen in the MCU. In the comics, Thor's mother is a Greek goddess, not a Norse god. Frigga is not his mother in the MCU. They just made it now. You got to see Iron Man, who, yes, up until then, yes, he was probably the only character that felt like they emphasized on Robert Downey Jr.'s version. The actor who played him, he sounded just like, but other than that, it was a love letter. Characters from they pulled characters from all over the Marvel Universe, put them in the show, and we got magic. But it celebrated its 10th anniversary last year, and Christopher Yost did something that made me, when I read this and was reading all these things, it makes me more angrier with Jeff Loeb than ever because of his stupidity in canceling the show and giving us those stupid, crappy successors that came out after. He put up what would have been season 3 of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And basically, what it would have summed up was, this is what it would have summed up. It would have summed up magic and mutants would have been the main emphasis on season 3. So the magical side of the Marvel Universe, and of course, the mutants. We saw Wolverine being introduced. We saw a couple, Whirlwind, all those, but we were going to see more. And Christopher Yost actually gave us a list, the 26 issue episodes of what season 3 would have been made of. I'm going to showcase all those to you, and we're going to discuss every one. So we're going to do that. So y'all, I hope y'all ready for this. So I have the list right here, and I'm going to read the synopsis of each list, the title of what the episode was going to be. And this is all according to Christopher Yost. And then we're going to discuss each episode. So, season 3, episode 1 would have been entitled Strange Tales. Classic homage to the classic comic series Strange Tales. Here it is. As Surtur released an army of demons on Earth, the Avengers find themselves facing their worst fears, trapped within the realm of nightmare. Up against an enemy they can't fight, the team turns to the one person who could help them, Dr. Stephen Strange. So basically, Dr. Strange was going to be introduced in the first episode of season 3. That would have been so fucking amazing to see the Sorcerer Supreme introduced. We would have seen Wong. We probably would have seen Wong, the Sanctum Sanctorum. We would have seen all that. It would have been so interesting to see, but we never got to see that. How cool would it have been to see Doctor Strange? Now it's not. We've seen Doctor Strange in other animated previous shows before this show. You know, it's not uncommon. The last time in terms of Doctor Strange, prior to if he would have been in Earth's Mightiest Heroes, I can think of Spider-Man TAS, the animated series. He guest starred in that, where he helped Spider-Man find Mary Jane, and they fought Dormammu and Baron Mordo and all those. It was great. And George Takei was Wong, voice Wong. It was great. So it would have been really cool to see Doctor Strange come into this episode, kicking it off with the Sorcerer Supreme. As Christopher Yost said, it was going to be magic and mutants. So first and foremost, I ran my mouth off, guys. I forgot to even check who is in the chat. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, all right, who's here? Okay, we got Chris Thomas. We got Matthew. We got Caroline. We got Cutie. We got 2000 Man Reborn. We got what other pack members here? Marv Wolven King. Okay. We have Kuma. We have Warhawk, Perry King, and Andrew Pardnick. And of course, pack member 25 Kid. What's up, Brandon? And the one, the only Green Arrow Hunter. What's up, my pack members? Your alpha says hello. So that would have been episode 1. So you guys can leave comments, and I'll try to get to as many as I can on that. But yes, episode 1 of season 3 would have been called Strange Tales, and it would have dealt with Surtur, because Surtur was in season 2, but his story never finished. We saw him making the Twilight Sword and looked like he was going to invade Asgard and everything like that. Never came to fruition. They jumped ahead. And more importantly, the Avengers are trapped in the realm of Nightmare. So we would have saw Nightmare, another classic Doctor Strange villain, and Doctor Strange would have been the only person to help Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That would have been dope. I would have loved that. I would have fucking loved that, to see that. But thank you again, Jeff Loeb. You, never mind. Thank you very much. I know myself. I'm trying. I'm trying to keep calm. I'm not gonna let Hurricane out. I won't. But you know. Anyway, moving on. Episode 2 of season 3 would have been titled "The Gentleman's Name is Magneto." Boom, right there. Christopher Yost would have already started planting the seeds for the mutants. More seeds. Remember, this season would have been all about magic and mutants. And in episode 2, as Christopher Yost says, Magneto's wage war against humanity brings his brotherhood of evil mutants into conflict with the Avengers. But what side are Magneto's children, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, on? Boom. Once again, first of all, I love the fact that Christopher Yost was going to keep Pietro and Wanda Magneto's kids. I hate the fact that Marvel decided to get rid of that. Try to retcon that they're not the kids of Magneto. Why? Because they're in the likes of the Avengers at the time, and they wanted to distinguish themselves from what X-Men was doing. That's stupid. Now, technically, the only child in their eyes is Lorna Dane. Polaris is his only child. But in my eyes, and it'll always be in my eyes, Pietro, Wanda, and Lorna are his kids. And once again, just showing how much Yost is a fan and respects the source, he would have built right off of that. Because in honesty, yes, Pietro and Wanda did come to the Avengers, and there was a lot of people that were not trusting of them because of their connection with Magneto. So episode 2 would have been entitled "The Gentleman's Name is Magneto." That would have been cool. I wonder who they would have got to voice Magneto. Who they would have got? What would have been the design for Wanda and Pietro? Would they have looked in their classic look or a little bit more up to date? But it would have been really interesting to see. Very much. Let me see what's going on with everything. Okay. Let's see. This is not a Q&A, so please don't ask questions. Nope. Okay. No, nothing involving the episodes, so keep going. Okay. Episode 3 of season 3 would have been called "Recurring Nightmare." So here's the synopsis of what Christopher Yost had planned. Iron Man and Doctor Doom are pulled through time to ancient Camelot, finding themselves an uneasy allies against Mordred the Mystic. And back in the present, the Wasp's only hope to get Iron Man back is the Black Knight. So we would have seen homage and to the miniseries like Iron Man versus Doctor Doom. Those were actually really good. And of course, we would have seen the Black Knight. Now we've seen the Black Knight in season 2. They did show him, but we would have really gotten a better look at him. Dane Whitman, the Black Knight. He also carries the Ebony Blade. So it'd have been really interesting to see because Black Knight, the Ebony Blade, excuse me, it is passed down from generation to generation. So he's not the first Black Knight, but he is passed down. We will be seeing the Black Knight debut in the MCU. Kit Harington from Game of Thrones will play him in the Eternals. So it's going to be really cool to see him in the armor with the ebony blade and everything like that. That would have been really cool. I am a fan of, knights and things like that. So it would have been really interesting to see how they would have, how Wasp would have helped got Tony and Doctor Doom out of the year of Camelot and things like that, all that time. So knights around and what people of that era would have thought of Tony and Doctor Doom. Here are these two armor-clad characters, but they can do so much more, and their armors are so powerful and things like that. When Doctor Doom came into the series in season 2, he was badass, just like he's supposed to be. He didn't look intimidated by anybody. That's Doctor Doom. Smart, fierce, my kind of villain, my favorite villain of all time, period. And even when he talked, I think he spoke, it was like menacing. It was cool. So yeah, season 3 would have brought back Doctor Doom, and we would have saw the Black Knight really get a bigger pull in that. Let's see what's going on. Okay, awesome. So I wonder how exactly the Black Knight would have fit into the Earth's Might. Well, Black Knight has been an Avenger. He's been an Avenger. But being that his sword is from far back, I'm sure that's probably how they would have done it. Like they would have probably tried to get some kind of message to his ancestor, the first Black Knight or so, something like that. It would have been interesting. Okay, episode 4 of season 3, what would have been season 3. I got to make sure I make this perfectly clear. Like, this is not happening. This was Christopher Yost on the 10th anniversary last week of Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Avengers, the cartoon, that he put this. He basically said, no, what the hell? Let me just show you what was planned if we had a season 3. So these are all his words. So episode 4 would have been called Twilight. And the synopsis of the episode, Wonder Man returns to the Avengers with an army of fire demons on his ionic tail, excuse me. He has ionic powers. And he wants the Avengers to save the Enchantress. Remember, the Enchantress was working for Surtur now. Meanwhile, Thor and Balder the Brave travel to the fiery realm of Muspelheim, only to be overwhelmed. That's the realm where Surtur's from. Yeah, because he's a fire demon and things like that. So we would have seen Wonder Man return. And it would have been interesting to see why would he want Enchantress to be saved. You can't really trust Amora. She's two-timing. She's a snake. Her biggest thing is always trying to get Thor to love her, and that's real. That's not just in the show. She had tried everything to get Thor's affection, but it never worked. Thor's eyes were for either Jane Foster or Sif. Now, if we're talking real Norse mythology, Thor was already married to Sif, had 2 sons and everything. So just saying. But it would have been interesting to see. That would have been cool to see. And it would have been great to see Balder the Brave back, another Asgardian that they seem to have left out of the MCU. I don't understand why, but let's be honest, they have not done the other Asgardians justice in the movies, and that sucks because they are all different and all unique. Look at what they did to the Warriors 3. Look at what they did to Sif. You think they would have done anything well with Balder the Brave? Thor's brother? You're right. But Yosh would have nailed it because we've seen what he did for Sif in season 2 with Beta Ray Bill and all that stuff. Perfect. He understood it. He got it. All right. So I'll do two more, and then I'll go to your comments and see what's going on. And then I'll come back. So episode 5 would have been the first two-parter episode. The first episode would have been called "An Age Undreamed of," and basically here we go. Now listen to this, because this was interesting. When I read this, I was like, man, where was he going with this? I even said if Marvel had the rights of a certain barbarian character at this point, it would have been so cool to see. So listen to this. So the ancient sorcerer Kolan Goth transformed the Avengers and all of New York City into medieval versions of themselves, leaving only Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch to save reality as we know it. How does that sound? Listen to that. Did you hear what I just said? Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch to save all reality. Isn't that what's going to kind of happen in the multiverse of madness? Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. But did you hear the villain antagonist, Kolan Goth, and classic villain that has battled the likes of Red Sonja, Conan, the Barbarian? If I swear to you, if they had got the license of Conan back whenever, I guarantee you we would have seen Conan in this episode. I guarantee you we would have seen a animated version of Conan, because that's who Kolan Goth is. He's been around, and he's actually now he's like the major threat of the Savage Avengers in the comics now. But yeah, it would have been great to see Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch together. The Sorcerer Supreme and Scarlet Witch's chaotic magic and her reality-based mutant powers. That would have been so cool. The second episode of this would have been entitled Raiders of the Lost Temple. Yeah. Freed from Goth's spell by the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, a team of Avengers lead a rebellion against New York's transformed heroes. Even with their new teammates, can the Avengers stop the world from changing forever? So if it continued from the first, and you see where that goes. I would have loved to see what they would have done with Kolan Goth. That would have been so fucking amazing to see that. And that would have been the first 2 episodes of first two-parter of season 3. And I'll do one more. I'll come back. So I'll stop at 6. Let's see what's going on in the comment section and hearing everybody's opinions and stuff like that, because that's what this is, the opinion spot. Monster and I want to hear what you guys think. So we're going to look at some of the comments. I'm not going to read everybody's comments, but I'll read it. Let's see. Okay, Matthew Man says, a good thing Iron Man is still using various armors and suits with multiple weapons and augmentations. Yeah, he is. He always will. He's a futurist, so you know how to ask. Arrow King, I would have liked an episode of the series adapting the future imperfect storyline with Magistrate Hulk. Yeah, that would have been interesting too. I'm going to continue what all 26. Matthew Mann says Doctor Doom, if he was least narcissistic or an egomaniac, then he would probably be more often and even plot instead of the stupidity. Oh. Well, look at his 2099. His 2099 self is a version of him as a hero. So they should have put Taskmaster and Squadron Supreme in there. I wonder if Balder himself would have died in this particular episode. Interesting. Okay, let's move on to a couple more. Let's move on. So we left off from 1 to 6. We would have had Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Magneto, Doctor Doom, Black Knight, Colin Goth, Surtur would have came back, Nightmare, Mordred the Mystic, all these characters. But listen to this, because I'm sure people probably remember this happening. The episode is called Episode 7, Thor Croaks. As Ragnarok approaches, Loki takes Thor off the battlefield. His only hope, Ant-Man and the Wasp, assuming a transformed Thor doesn't eat them. Ribbit. So we would have got Thor as Frog Thor. We would have got an episode dedicated to him as a frog. That did happen in the comics. He got turned to a frog, and it was hilarious. But yeah, the mighty Thor was turned into a frog. And I love how Yost put that, like, it will be up to Ant-Man and the Wasp, only if Thor doesn't eat them. Because they probably would have been miniaturized, and all he would have saw was flies try to eat them, you know. This would have been very interesting. And as you can see, they're building up to Ragnarok. So once again, Loki again coming in. We've seen Loki throughout the first season as well as the second somewhat, I believe. Yeah. But yeah, he was in the second. Yeah, he was in the second season. So, but it would have been cool to see. So episode 8 would have been titled The Sign of the Serpent, as Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. deal with the resurgence of Hydra. The Avengers race against Viper and the Serpent Society to recover the pieces of the Serpent Crown. But Viper doesn't realize the evil she's about to unleash on the world. The fact that they were going to introduce the Serpent Crown would have been really interesting. It's a powerful artifact that you can currently read in the comics now. There is a miniseries, a Conan miniseries, where he's dealing with the Serpent Crown. For all those who don't know, Conan, the license of Conan is back with Marvel. So Conan is mixing up with Marvel heroes. They push him through time, or he's in his own in the Hyperion world. But yeah, he's dealing with the Serpent Crown. It's located in Las Vegas. Mephisto had it, and a couple other people, he was dealing with it. So it was actually, the fact that they were going to do that was cool. I love when they introduced the Serpent Society. I want to still see the Serpent Society in the MCU. I think they still can pull that group of snake-themed villains off. And what would be a really interesting way of doing it? Perhaps a cult. They're a cult. They're not a group of terrorists. They're more of a cult. Kind of like Thulsa Doom or something like that. Remember his snake cult in Conan? Yeah, I still think they could pull it off. Viper and Anaconda and Constrictor was a part of there. All the big, all names of snakes or what they are would have been in this, are part of the Serpent Society. But once again, building up and also using a very powerful artifact in the Marvel Universe, the Serpent Crown would have been really cool. Yes, indeed, that would have been cool. Episode 9 would have been entitled West Coast Avengers. Period. We did hear hints of the West Coast Avengers when it was actually Hawkeye. Clint actually said maybe we should move to the West Coast and things like that. So here's the synopsis. While in California on an errand for Iron Man, Hawkeye and Wonder Man, so Wonder Man would have joined with the team, consider a more permanent change of scenery until Graviton shows up, even with the help of Mockingbird and the mysterious Greer, Nelson, Tigra, things look bad for the wackos. Basically, the West Coast Avengers. That's like an infamous for them. Great. The West Coast Avengers was a team that Tony started. You know, Hawkeye, Clint, Tigra, Wonder Man, a couple other people. Spider Woman, Julia Carpenter, Spider Woman. She was on the team. Moon Knight was on that team for a couple of times. But the fact that what caught me about this one was Graviton, because after the first episode, because remember they had those shorts before to introduce all the characters. They had the original episode where we saw how the team got together and they fought Graviton. After that, we didn't see Graviton ever. We didn't see him any other episode. So the fact that Graviton would have came back in this would have been great. Mockingbird, we've seen Mockingbird, and the fact that we would have seen Tigra. I love Tigra. She's a great character. For all those who don't know what Tigra is, who she is, she's a Catwoman, literally like Cheetah, except that she's a tiger woman. She got her powers through a group of people a group of individuals who worship a cat deity and things like that. If you don't know, research her. She's really cool though. But yeah, that would have been the West Coast Avengers. Episode 10, if it happened, would have been the next two-parter, and it would have been called Knights of Wundagore. As the Maximoff twins delve into the mystery of their true parentage, the Avengers face off with the High Evolutionary and his new men of Wundagore Mountain. But the High Evolutionary only wants to save the world from a much bigger threat. So once again, we would have seen this actually happened in the X-Men, the animated series. We saw Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver go to Wundagore Mountain to discover who they truly are and everything like that. We got to see the High Evolutionary. We also got to see all his new men, including Bova, the cow lady, who actually was the one that took care and raised Wanda and Pietro when they were children. So we would have got to see the High Evolutionary, another character that I would love to see in the MCU. People keep talking about, well, now that Thanos is gone, they don't have any big bads or anything like that. You're crazy. You're bugging to think that. That just shows you don't know a lot, and you need to educate yourselves on the threats and the villains and characters of the Marvel Universe. The High Evolutionary is a powerful individual who feels that his way is the true way of saving the planet and everything like that. He's just going to think of a more maniacal Ra's al Ghul. You see how Ra's al Ghul wants to save the planet, but he wants to wipe out humanity and that's kind of take that. The High Evolutionary is a little bit like that, but instead of wiping out the planet, he wants to repopulate the planet with his own race of new men. There you go. Episode 2 of this two-parter would have been called, this episode 11 would have been called Witch on the Mountain. Something terrible has awakened inside of Wundagore Mountain, and it's come for the Scarlet Witch. Shinthos has returned, and now the Avengers' only hope lies in Quicksilver as he attempts to collect the pages of the Darkhold. So we're talking about the Druids and everything like that. Once again, cool. It would have been great. Once again, really diving into magic in this season. Out of the 11 episodes I just read off of what would have been, we seeing a lot of dealing with mutants and magic. That was the whole concept of what season 3 would have been about. So keep it going. With that being said, we move on to Episode 12, which would have been the beginning of the end, because it would have been another two-parter. Everything burns. Surtur arrives on Asgard as the Avengers face a wrathful Loki on Thor. Captain America pays his debt to Hela, while Thor faces his destiny in the form of the Midgard Serpent. This is really diving deep into Norse mythology and the world serpent and everything like that. And of course, Ragnarok, which implies the next episode 13, Ragnarok. The Twilight Sword has severed the world tree. Odin is gone. Thor lays dead, dying. Earth is all that's left. The end of all things has come. Ragnarok happens. So episode 13 would have been Ragnarok. And it would have been really interesting to see how that would have turned out. Would have Thor gotten the Odin Force after Odin gone? Because that's what it would have happened. He would have gotten the Odin Force powers. And Surtur would have returned, because we saw Surtur, guys, in season 2, but we never got to. They never finished his story. They never finished. We saw him at the end making the Twilight Sword. He was making it, but we never got to see where it was gonna go. That's messed up. So, but yeah, it would have been cool. It would have been real cool. Episode 14 would have been entitled Enter the X-Men. With the Avengers scattered after the events, the arrival of Asgard on Earth. So basically, what that is implying, Asgard would have probably been destroyed, and all the Asgardians would have came to Earth, like it did happen in the comics. They were in Oklahoma. The X-Men come to the Avengers mansion looking for 2 fugitives from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, Magneto's children, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. This happened in the comics. The X-Men did come to the Avengers mansion looking for them. They felt that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch still needed to pay for their crimes. This did happen in the comics. And in hindsight, once again, not a lot of people trusted them, even when they had, usually Avengers, every time they have their new lineup or everything, the Avengers do a press conference and everybody gets to see the lineup. Like, okay, this is the Avengers now. And even then, there were people calling the Avengers after that, like, are you sure about this? You know who they are. You know whose kids they are. You know, they're terrorists. They need to pay for their crimes. This happened. Once again, respecting Yost with the source material was one of the biggest keys of this series, respecting the source material. And he did a grand job at that. And I would have loved to see it. I bugged out the moment he put Luke Cage and Iron Fist in an episode. Y'all remember that? Where he 2 of my top 10 favorite Marvel characters of all time, Luke Cage and Iron Fist. He put them in an episode, and it was great. It was almost a love letter to them. They had almost every one of Luke's villains in that episode alone. He brought in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Before the Guardians of the Galaxy became very more comedic. The Star-Lord and that Star-Lord, that Peter Quill was more serious. You had Groot, you had Rocket Raccoon, but he spoke with his real Cockney accent. So when he was talking, he was like, he's the Star-Lord. You respect his name and things like that. And of course, Adam Warlock was in that episode. It was like a love letter. It was so cool. So never say that Christopher Yost doesn't respect and love the source material, because he does. Episode 15 would have been entitled the old The old order changeth. The world will always need Avengers, and when the Masters of Evil strike, only Cap, Hawkeye, and Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver answer the call. Plus, Shield isn't too happy about a couple of evil mutants being on the team. What didn't I just talk about that? Yeah, there you go. So we would have seen the Masters of Evil return, and only Cap, Hawkeye, Widow, Scarlet, and her brother would have been able to deal with that. Probably because of what happened. Like the team is still dealing with a lot of things, so that would have been cool to see. And who maybe this would have been the old incarnation of Master of Evil, or they would have brought in the newer incarnation. Because remember, the Master of Evils changed as well. They didn't always stay the same too. So it would have been really cool. So let's see what's going on in the comments, and I'll come back and start with episode 16. So these all sound great. That's from Warhawk, Rambo. Falcon should make a comeback in what? In the show? Because Falcon was in Earth's Mightiest Hero. He was a part of Team Red. It was really cool. Deep South Avengers. Okay. Wow, that sounds great. An episode of the series featuring the Midnight Suns would have been great. Yeah, if they're because it would have been about magic. Galactus is more of a threat than Thanos, depending on where you stand. Because Galactus is not trying to go out. He can't help the way what he is. He can't help that. At one point, he wasn't the world of devourer, the devourer of worlds anymore. He was the life bringer. A team composed of Black Panther, Blue Marvel, Captain Marvel, Miss America, and Monica Rambeau. They were called the Ultimates. They got together, and their first proactive mission, because they were more of a proactive team, they cured Galactus of his insatiable hunger, and he became the life bringer. So he was bringing life instead of taking it. And unfortunately, he had to give that up because Ultron was just going apeshit crazy. And for all those who don't know, Ultron has merged with his creator, Hank Pym. So Hank Pym and Ultron are one. So yeah, it's sad. Let's see. Andre says, I wonder how the Midgard serpent would have actually looked like physically. That would have been cool. Kumar says, would you want Mr. Hyde in here? Look, I'm gonna be honest. I'll answer this question. I've said this personally to everybody who listens in terms of the MCU or just comics and comic movies in general. I want every fucking character in comics to be in the MCU. I'm not even joking about that. I want every character. And I know Marvel has over 5,000 characters, but damn it, I want them to try and do it. You know what I'm saying? But that would have been cool. But yeah, Mr. Hyde would have been cool. Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch are a great double team. I bet the X-Men and the general public of New York City would probably hate the fact that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver would be on the new Avengers team. Yeah, they were. They pretty much were. Brandon, I'm loving these episodes, man. Yeah. How old is Galactus is from Skyhem? He's old, very old. He's as old as the universe. So he's been around for since the dawn of time, if you want to call it that. He wasn't always like that, but he's old. He's very old. Let's keep it going. Okay, episode 16 made me I had a nerdgasm because I wanted this character and we were going to get it. Once again, Yost would have delivered. I know he would have. Christopher Yost is like the Kevin Feige of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That's the best way I can describe it. So listen to this. The episode would have been entitled The Man Called Nova. Boom. We would have had Nova debut in this series. And here is what Nova would have been dealing with. Listen to this. Alien monsters called the Brood have already wiped out the Nova Corps. And now only Captain Marvel and the Avengers stand between them and Earth. Enter the human rocket. We would have had the Brood. The Brood would have been in an episode. Now, has the Brood ever been animated? Yes and no. Back in the X-Men, the animated series, the first, there was an episode where they were trying to be the Brood, but they weren't. And it was an episode where Rogue and her old boyfriend Cody came back together, and we found out that Cody had become a part of them, and things like that. But they weren't the Brood. That's who they were supposed to be, but they weren't. But this would have probably been the real Brood. And yes, the Brood are just Marvel's equivalent of the Xenomorphs. That's all they are. That's all they are. But it would have been so cool, and it would have been so cool to see Richard, because I know for a fact Yost would have brought Richard Rider in before Sam Alexander. I'd never have liked the fact that Marvel later on would create these new versions of their classic characters and almost like tell us, the readers, that, hey, forget about that character. This is Nova. I'm looking at them as somebody who's been reading comics for over 20-some years. Like, are you crazy? Like, I will never forget Richard Rider. I know who Nova is. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate Sam Alexander, and I'm glad to see that Richard is back, because he did go out swinging, in Thanos Impervious. Him and Star-Lord sacrificed themselves to protect the galaxy against Thanos, but somehow they came back. They were able to come back. But yeah, I'm sure this would have been Richard Rider before Sam Alexander. I'm sure that would have been that way. Because once again, the man called Nova. Even though, because Sam Alexander is still like a teenager, so it would have been, it would have been Richard. Next episode, episode 17, would have been called The Fourth Host. Wakanda is invaded by a group of hyper-evolved beings called the Eternals. So we would have seen the Eternals landing in Wakanda. Woo! That would have been really interesting. They're preparing for the arrival of the space gods known as the Celestials. But the Black Panther stands in their way. Wakanda forever. We would have seen the Eternals. We would have seen probably Bina and Ajax and all those other classic characters that the great Jack Kirby created. And we would have seen the Celestials. The Eternals invading Wakanda. That would have been interesting. First of all, Earth's Mightiest Hero version of Black Panther, to me, was the best interpretation of the character animated. Once again, Yost paid so much homage to the original source material and so on and so forth. It just came off lovely. It was so good. And it would have been great to see T'Challa dealing with and Wakanda dealing with the Eternals, and seeing how Wakandan tech will deal with these very powerful individuals called the Eternals. That would have been really cool. Episode 18, if it happened, would have been entitled Vicious Circle. The Juggernaut is on the rampage, and only Thor and the Hulk can stop him. But when Wolverine and the X-Men arrive to collide, to collect their old foe, shink. But there are worse things in the Canadian wilderness than the Avengers or X-Men realize. when I read this, you know who I was thinking about? The Wendigo. That was the first thing I thought about when he said the worst things in the Canadian wilderness, and I was thinking about the Wendigo because we saw the Wendigo escape from the raft. He probably would have made it back to the Canadian wilderness. The other character I was thinking about is Jesus Christ, the I wouldn't say the spirit bear. Shoot, I'm forgetting his name. Wood God. Yeah, Wood God. These are classic characters. Just certain characters that go way back. I just would have loved to seen that, and the fact that we probably would have got a Juggernaut Hulk fight up in there. It is always great to see Juggernaut and the Hulk go at it. It would have been so cool. I would have loved to seen that. I would have loved to see just how they would have designed Juggernaut in this, like what he would have looked like. Would he would have had the all red look or his black and gold look he started rocking later on? But it would have been great. Almost done. So here we go. Let's keep it going. Next up, episode 19. I hope you guys are enjoying this and it does make me sad to read these. I've read these before and it made me sad because like we could have had all this. But the next episode would have been entitled The Last Avenger. Episode 19, season 3. As the Avengers battle Kang in ancient Egypt, Captain America is lost in time. From World War II, fighting alongside, listen, the Atlantean submariner, Namor, before he became a dick, all the way up to the dark future controlled by Ultron, where Cap ever find his way back home. So pretty much it would have been a time jumping with Steve, but also they probably would have done a little bit of Ultron World, that the event that came out where it was Ultron had taken over the entire world and the last remaining heroes were fighting him and things like that. And the fact that we would have saw Namor in this in World War II would have been really interesting because it does make you wonder, like, why didn't they show when we saw Steve in World War II? How come he wasn't with the invaders and Submariner? Once again, I put the emphasis on before he became a dick, because Namor back in World War II, he was all for helping Steve and the Allied forces against Hydra and the Nazis and everything like that. But things changed and he became the biggest dick. There's just things about Namor. I like him, but then you just want to see him get smacked around a couple of times because it's like, you fucking idiot. Like, you idiot. I'm just saying. Next up on the list, episode 20 would have been called Like a Phoenix from the Ashes. An ancient power moves across the universe, destroying everything in its path. Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Thor, Vision, and Nova watch as the galactic superpowers fail to stop it. The Phoenix Force is heading to Earth. We knew this was happening. I'm sure Christopher Yost would have taken a lot of care and did a lot of respect for the Phoenix. The last time we actually saw a good Phoenix done well and animated was probably the first original X-Men series. That's how you do the Phoenix, because that was pulling right from Claremont's run. Live action, they have never done the Phoenix right. And that's why I say when the X-Men come into the MCU, stay away, Mr. Feige. Stay away from the Phoenix for a while. Don't even go near that thing. Don't even start introducing it. Until they learn how to do it right, keep it away. Keep it away. So that would have been the beginning of the Phoenix. Episode 21 Episode 21 would have been called Evolutionary War. This happened. This was an actual event in the comics. Superhumans, mutants, Atlanteans, Inhumans, Eternals, Deviants. Those are the enemies of the Eternals. We'll see them in the movies. To save the world, the High Evolutionary will destroy them all. War has begun. Episode 2 would have been entitled, of the second part of that would have been entitled Conquest. The High Evolutionary gene bomb will cleanse the world of genetic devastation. This is exactly what Ultron wants. That would have been cool. Really cool. So we would have seen the Inhumans in the series. It's cool. That's cool. All right. Moving on. We're gonna finish this, and then we have 4 more episodes now, and then I'm just gonna talk to you guys and hear what you guys thought about everything and read your comments and things like that. So the next episode was the best offense. Get this. Now listen. The Hulk, Doctor Strange, and Namor are all that stands in the way of Earth's destruction at the hand of the elders of the universe. If only they could get along. Captain Marvel and Valkyrie have their work cut out for them. So basically, this episode would have basically been an homage to the original Defenders, except without Silver Surfer. So Hulk, Doctor Strange, Namor, all we're missing is Silver Surfer, which was just at the time when Marvel put that together, it just felt like the weirdest team ever put together. None of these characters had anything in common, but people loved the Defenders, and we're talking about the original Defenders, those 4 members. Valkyrie did join the team later on, but yeah, it would have been really cool. Best offense. The next 2 episodes, you're gonna love these. Listen to this. The next episode would have been called X-Sanction. The Phoenix Force is coming for the X-Men's Marvel Girl, Jean, and the Avengers want to get her off the Earth. Standing in their way, the uncanny X-Men, who have no intention of just handing Jean Grey over. Everything has been building up to this. So we kind of would have gotten, the basically an Avengers versus X-Men. X-Sanction is real. That's another story arc, that storyline that happened in the comics. And the second part to it would have been entitled House of M, with Magneto and Quicksilver leading the mutants in possession of the shattered Phoenix Force. The Scarlet Witch chooses sides, and the Avengers and the remaining X-Men are on the run from the all-powerful House of M. What hope does humanity have? That would have been cool. The House of M and everything like that. Sure, it would have been only like 1 episode, but it would have been really interesting to see where they go with it. And finally, episode 26 of what would have been season 3 would have been called Avengers World. It's the Avenger and the X-Men versus the Fury of the Dark Phoenix. The chilling nature of the Scarlet Witch's true power is revealed as reality itself breaks. Will either team survive? How would we have witnessed Scarlet Witch saying those 3 words that she said before? Or would it have been more of Avengers Disassembled when she went mad? Once again, guys, my pack, the fact that This would have been the accompaniment of season 3 of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This makes me so mad that this won't happen unless Disney comes and says, you know what, do it, make it exclusive to Disney Plus, but do it. We'll do it. We're not going to see this. We won't. It would have been so mad. It makes me so mad that that's not happening. And you can sign any pretension and all those, to like bring it back, but I'm not saying that those don't work, because it was one of the reasons that brought Young Justice back. But what Yost had planned for season 3 just makes my mouth water with excitement, because I would have loved to seen all of this, and we can't, because the show got canceled. So let's hear what some of these people, what everybody has to say. And you guys, please tell me what were, out of some of the episodes that I mentioned, like what would have been some of your favorite episodes to watch. I would have loved to I'd love to hear that. So we're gonna start up. I'm gonna go back up to, let's see. I'll start it. Okay, everybody's saying I thought I said the Inhumans. Yeah, Inhumans. I said the Inhumans. A 2012 Avengers Assemble. Cool. Before the woke mess and Perking. Now that I think of it, we haven't seen Daredevil since the 90s. 90s Spider-Man animated series and the cartoons. He had Daredevil. That would have been. I'm sure they would have probably worked Daredevil in maybe if there was a season 4. I feel that would have been more the case. Like maybe somebody is on trial and they need a lawyer, just like how they did with Spider-Man. But before Spider-Man, he was in the Fantastic Four. He helped the Fantastic Four when they lost their powers. He was the one helping them with Doctor Doom and everything like that. It was really cool. So yeah, it was still. I would have loved to see Daredevil. I heard people talk about I would have loved to see them introduce maybe vampires and the Midnight Suns. Yeah, all that would have been good too. Dracula. Yeah, they would have been cool if they brought in Dracula. Imagine the Avengers cartoon imagine this Avengers cartoon with MCU series. What you mean as a series? Andre says Namor, beautiful. Stay strong, Chris. I'm doing my best. It's really been that long since Avengers aired. Wow, makes me feel old. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. Fantastic Four was nice too. Fantastic Four, they were introduced in the second season of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. We actually got to see them first in the first season. Thor, there was a picture of them, and Thor mentioned them, and we saw them, and then later on we saw them in the episode. Skyhem, we should sign a petition. Like I said, oh crap, the Avengers versus the Phoenix Force would have been awesome. Phoenix Force in Avengers cartoons would have rocked. And Humans, awesome. 90s X-Men was great and needed a longer years. And the good Miss Marvel in 2012. Original Defenders, awesome. That was from Green Arrow Hunter. Yeah. The only character we were missing was Silver Surfer. And that's my only issue when they did fight Galactus at the finale. They had all his other heralds except for probably the most famous one. And that's probably because of legal issues. Uh, Andre says, I wonder how the Earth's Mightiest Heroes show would have portrayed the royal family. I'm sure they would have done a better job. They would have did a great job. If you watch the season 2 of Fantastic Four cartoon, what we saw there, I'm sure Christopher Yost would have done the exact same way. Um, House of M, nice. Warhawk Rambo, wow, that would have been awesome. So Avengers versus X-Men and House of M, interesting. Earth's Mightiest Hero was the best cartoon version. Change my mind. I'm not going to, because you're right. It was the best interpretation of the Avengers animated. All those other Avengers cartoon success, I don't even want to call them successors, but that came after were a welfare case compared to that show, especially Avengers Assemble, which was, as they said, was a direct sequel to Earth's Mightiest Heroes. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And anything after that just shitted on this. Everything just became more an a combination, excuse me, of the MCU. What was going on in the MCU? So, oh well, okay, let's throw them in there. Let's make all the characters look like their MCU counterpart. Everything like that. It just didn't work. It just felt so rushed. Every episode just felt so rushed, and I blame a lot of that on Loeb, because he does not like. He wants everything fast paced, everything one. He doesn't like episodic TV series. That's one of the main reasons why he canceled it. Yost was telling a story. There was every season had a centerpiece of what was going on. Season 1 was about the raft, catching the villains, everything like that. Season 2, they broke it up from the Secret Invasion to all that stuff. Avengers Assembled, everything is one episode, so quick. Yeah, like there was no true storytelling from that series, and it just killed it. And so everything else that comes out after this show, it's hard to watch. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do watch the Spider-Man, that Marvel Spider-Man now, but still, it's still playing off of the MCU Spider-Man. He's a teenager, he's young, but you already introduced Miles and Anya and Gwen, who is Ghost Spider, Spider Gwen, in that. It's still the combination of the. I really wish they had kept the MCU and the animated series apart from each other. Like, you could do your own thing, but stay focused on your own craft, as well as what was going on currently or so in the books. It just would have felt that way. Earth's Mightiest Heroes was doing that. They didn't do Civil War and everything like that, but still, it would have been. I'm sure if they had did Civil War, it probably been better. And Juan, you say Earth's Mightiest Heroes to Marvel is what JLA was to DC. Yeah, pretty much. It was what it was. Brandon says Taskmaster would be great in the series as a good foil to the Avengers, and I dig the House of M storyline, plus a new Avengers season 4. Andre says, I would have loved to see Golden Age Namor in action fighting alongside Cap with the rest of the Invaders team. That would have been cool, because yeah, he was fighting along once again before he became a dick. Cuff, how would they put She-Hulk? Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to see how they would introduce She-Hulk. I was a big Earth's Mightiest Hero fan back in the day. I'm still a fan. Like I will pop that show on when I'm in the mood. I love it. And it also was probably the best interpretation of the Hulk ever. I give Fred Taskor so much credit for voicing that character. He did a masterful job of that. And this sounds great with the writing team. Juan, the problem is that they wanted to cater more to the MCU than the comic. Yes, that's the problem. That is one of the major problems with all these Marvel cartoons now that come on Disney XD and all that stuff. It's catering too much to the MCU. Yes, the MCU is a very successful franchise. It is, but you can tell stories outside of just having everything so geared up to that. You can. Everybody looks like they're coming straight out of the MCU. Everybody. It's ridiculous. Andre says, I really just want to see a quick cameo of the Great Lake Avengers in a West Coast Avengers episode. The only Great Lake Avenger I would want is Squirrel Girl. That's it. I don't care about any of them. I don't like Flat Man. I don't like Big Bertha. I don't like all them other. No, I can't. Dark Phoenix, definitely. Yeah, that would have been cool. I was at New York Comic Con that year when they announced Avengers Assemble show, and I was disappointed. And a few other people loved Earthman. Yeah, I look. The other thing I do is, guys, for me, I gave that show a chance. I usually always try to give a show a chance. If it's a TV show, I usually give it 5 episodes. When it's a comic, I usually give it about 6 or 7 issues. If I don't like it after that, I drop it real quick. Earth's Mightiest Heroes didn't even get 5 episodes from me. It got about 3 episodes because to me it was insulting my intelligence. It was like, so I'm supposed to believe that this is a direct sequel to Earth's Mightiest Heroes. You stupid! Like, don't insult my intelligence. Don't insult my intelligence. When did Black Widow join the team? In Earth's Mightiest Heroes, she was like almost on the run. Like always, Hawkeye was chasing her all the time, trying to, was she a traitor? And then we kind of found out, no, she wasn't a traitor, but she had to play that role. But it was weird. Let's see. The next part of it was people were saying is, would we have seen classic Rogue in terms of her first appearance in costume? I don't. That is an interesting question because when you think about when they never showed the X-Men. The other thing about Earth's Mightiest Heroes is so cool about you got people that would say, oh, how are they introducing all these characters when we never saw them? If you remember, in almost every beginning episode, they showed that cabbie, and he was reading the Daily Bugle, and it would always say something about a Marvel character. Skull wearing vigilante goes on a rampage. We knew who he was talking about. Punisher. Strange school, upstate New York. The X-Men. Who else they had? I'm forgetting those, but we knew who they were. Basically, Christopher Yost showcased that this was the Marvel Universe just animated. These characters are all around. They were always there. They just needed to pop up. Remember when the Ant-Man suit got stolen by Scott Lang to get back Cassie? What happened? Who did Hank Pym hire? Luke and Danny. And to watch them just go, I love that scene where the guy tried to punch Luke and his fist just went, and he was just like, it's called Unbreakable Skin, fool. And I was like, it felt like that was going to be a spin-off series. When Spider-Man guest starred on his show, when him and Steve were underground with the Serpent Society and a couple of civilians, and you got Steve. This is right when Steve, after the secret invasion. Remember when they looked the everybody was still thinking that he was a traitor, and they're all like, "Yeah, you traitor! Like, why are you with him and everything like that?" And Spider-Man was like, "Cap, why are you gonna let them talk to you like this?" And he's like, "Doesn't bother me." And he said, and I remember him just saying, "I hear them say a lot worse things about you." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, Jameson's an idiot," and things like that. And he's like, "Yeah, but you never care. I talk to the firemen and the people you saved. You never ask for recognition and things like." It was this beautiful Captain America speech, and it was just like, yeah. And I remember that episode so well because they edited that episode. Drake Bell was voicing Spider-Man, but originally it was Josh Keaton voicing Spider-Man, and of course we know what happens there. They changed it to Drake Bell, but when Spider-Man guest starred in it, when they did do the new Avengers, uh, Spider-Man, Thing, War Machine, Wolverine, it was great. It was so good. It was that episode was this show was just a love letter. It was a big love letter, no doubt about it. I'm gonna read some more of your guys' comments. Juan said, in my opinion, the MCU should be its own thing, and everything else should stay closer to comics. I will agree with that. I wish, but you know, give normies credit. I think they can understand. There's the comic verse and there's the movie verse. Killed a great story. Rest in peace, Earth's Mightiest Hero. Yeah. Andre says, I wonder if Storm and Black Panther hooked up in the particular season of Earth's Mightiest Hero. I don't know about that one. Just imagine if they did an X-Men series closer to the movie than the comics. Wouldn't have worked. Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. Jesus Christ. Would have loved to seen. Would they introduce the Nova Corp? And well, they already said the Nova Corp was introduced. They got wiped out by the Brood. That's what they were going to go with, but there was going to be one last Nova. Richard Rider would have became Nova. Howard the Duck. Oh yeah, it would have been interesting to see Howard. What did Luke say to Scott? So, what did Luke say? So, do I look like a cop? Kinda, yeah. He was, that was funny. But how would Earth's Mightiest Hero handle Deadpool? The same way they were going to put Deadpool in Wolverine and the X-Men. Wolverine and the X-Men got canceled, and season 2 was ready to go, and they canceled it. And Deadpool was going to be in that season. I don't know. I like the Marvel Rising shorts. Those are okay. I'll give them credit. The only reason I like them is because it does give a focus on like Kamala, which I like, and Riri Williams. She made it in there. America Chavez. Those. Okay, I'll give it to that. But overall, it's still you got to have balance. You got to have balance. And what I mean by that is catering to both sides. To both sides. I really wish I didn't say that, but yeah, you know what I mean. Green Arrow Hunter said an episode with Dark Avengers would have been cool. Yeah, if they had brought them in. It would have been cool if they introduced the Shi'ar Empire. Well, where the Phoenix goes, they probably would have done the Shi'ar at one point. I love Squirrel Girl. I want to see her kick Thanos' butt. Well, I want to see Squirrel Girl in the MCU. I'm not gonna lie, and I want them to continue who was gonna play Squirrel Girl. Y'all know the girl, the actress who was on the AT&T commercials. She was going to be Squirrel Girl in the Squirrel Girl and New Avengers, New Warriors show, which I would have hated because I would have not taken it seriously as Squirrel Girl was the leader of the New Warriors. I would have not. But she was going to be Squirrel Girl. She was going to be that. So I still want to see Doreen Green. I still want to see her in there and people like that. But yeah. And I'll answer this, read this last comment. I really wish that we could have a proper Marvel animated universe that focuses on the lesser known heroes of the Marvel universe. That is cool, but it takes away from that it not being the Marvel universe. You know, you're just focusing on just one set of characters. It still has to be an accompaniment of all the characters. Yosh, I'm sure if it had continued, we would have seen spin-off series focused in the same universe as Earth's Mightiest Heroes. But like I said before, guys, this special edition of the Opinion Spot is just my opinion. And read those comments, read those what would have been season 3 of Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and what would have been the combination of episodes, what the episodes, the center nucleus of the season would have focused on, as according to Chris Yost, would have been magic and mutants. And at reading all 26 of those episodes, magic and mutants would have been a big part of it. It still to this day, I would still recommend people to watch Earth's Mightiest Heroes, no matter how many times you watched it, how many times you enjoyed it. I mean, I'll go back and watch the first episode where the team comes together to face Graviton, just because I love that episode. You know, I love when Graviton's like, you think you can, I'm the strongest ever. Next, who comes down? Boom, the Hulk, and he's just like, you sure about that? And he just tackles Graviton, and he just starts wailing on him. And you know, and you just see, and they're just like, is that the Hulk? Well, and that was the other thing that I love. It wasn't like nobody knew each other. They knew each other. They knew their names. They knew who they were. Is that the Hulk? And they're like, I thought he was a bad guy. And you know, seeing that episode and just seeing like when, you know, Hulk is falling down because, you know, Graviton was taking the gravity and he was coming down, and you just seen Hulk just knocking those big, like, you know, tankers out of the way, and then Wasp shoots her beams and cuts it down. And what does Hulk turn? He's like, you're helping me. Like, he was so shocked, like you were helping me. And then of course, and he's like, yeah, and now hit him. And it was just great. And to see, you know, just to see them come up with the name and the who, and also to see, once again, just showing homage to the classic stories. For all those who don't know how they got their name, the Avengers, you know who gave it to them? Janet Van Dyne. She came up with the name Avengers. And what we saw on the show, she said it. We can be Avengers. She came up with the name. It's her who came up. The first lady of the Avengers came up with the name. It wasn't Tony, it wasn't Thor or Hank or Steve. And what was even great about that too, look at when they introduced Steve Rogers. He came in the 4th episode, paying homage, because that's exactly when Steve Rogers, Captain America, returned in the comics. Episode 4 of the Avengers. And of course, Hulk left after the second issue of the Avengers comic, and then he came back. It was such a love letter. It was just so good. Look at what they did with characters like the Grim Reaper and, yeah, you know, Wonder Man and MODOK. Hell, look at what they did with MODOK. I'll never forget that episode where Thor said, that is a big head. I was cracking up, but it was great. Look at what they did with AIM and Hydra, Baron von Strucker. You know, they paid homage to all these great Marvel villains, even some of the classic ones that you don't even see no more, like Mandrill and the Mad Thinker and all. It's just like, this is a love letter. This is a complete love letter. And it's just sad that we never got to see it fully come to balance. Yes, the show ran for 52 episodes, but I believe in my heart, guys, that Earth's Mightiest Heroes could have lasted over 100 episodes. It could have gotten to 100. I have a strong belief it could have gone 6 seasons. A good round of 6 seasons, 26 episode of pop, and it would have, because you had so much source material to work with in the show. It could have lasted so long. It could have lasted just as long as a lot of the classic Marvel cartoons. But this was another great gem that got canceled way too early, and it sucks. Spectacular Spider-Man got canceled 2 seasons. Wolverine and X-Men got canceled after 1. I know a lot of people had issues with that show mainly because of the title, because it was Wolverine and the X-Men. But overall, it was a good X-Men series, and this was another one. But with that being said, guys, I want to say thank you, and for everybody, all the pack members that came out and left their opinions on this, and shouts out to Green Arrow Hunter. I believe it was Green Arrow Hunter, or he kind of thought I didn't remember, but he dropped this and was like, "Yeah, are you going to talk about this?" I didn't tell him I was, because I already had that plan. But shouts out to you, dude, because I had a feeling that people were going to ask, "Am I going to do some kind of special on what could have been season 3?" I did it for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The episodes that were planned, I would have had a nerdgasm over 9,000 every episode, but it never happened, and that's sad. So thank you to all who enjoyed this. I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe. Peace and love. As always, stay true. Monster, you want to say something? He says, take care, guys. And I'll see you guys next time.